Hello, everybody. I'm Jeffrey Eberger, and welcome to Holistic Mental Fitness Series, where myself and Mupo Entertainment believes mental fitness is the new physical health. Before I bring on my very special guest, Dr. Tricia Kapavik, if I'm going to pronounce that name. Hopefully, I got her last name correctly. She's a doctor of chiropractic, and before I bring her to the stage, if I may, as a certified holistic wellness coach, I'm humbled to be affiliated with an amazing group of humanitarian entrepreneurs who are aligned with the only holistic mental wellness company focusing on the microbiome. So many people ask, well, what is that? Great question. It's the gut-brain-heart axis health, a science that's disrupting the health and wellness industry today, especially when it comes to mental health. Who out there hasn't experienced stress, anxiety, depression, or even have had suicidal thoughts? You know, it's no exaggeration to describe stress, depression, anxiety, or even burnout as epidemics, literally the black plague of our modern times. This interview series is very near and dear to my own heart, sharing stories of others who are opening in conversations from all areas of wellness to help people understand it's okay to talk about mental, physical, and emotional health, sharing their experiences and becoming informed of alternative options out there that are safe and work. We provide real solutions to real people who are serious about getting their physical, mental, and emotional health from barely surviving to back to thriving again. And I'm sure many of you can relate to that in some fashion, or maybe you know somebody who is barely surviving and wants to get back to thriving again because of our current systems. And that's another whole interview series there. You know, there is no physical health without mental wellness. They are two sides of the same coin, and they are actually vital for each of others to live and coincide together for our own ability to reach our peak potential in this one life that we get to live. So, how you feel in your head, it's also in your gut. And this is what we do best. We're going to take a quick, short commercial break. And before I bring Dr. Tricia on the stage here with Mupo Entertainment, this is a syndicated TV series that I'm really humbled to be affiliated with, getting my word out, getting other people's word out. And for those that are interested, this interview series is a collaboration, as I said, with Mupo Entertainment, and it can be found on mupotv.com. You can also download the Android or the iPhone app, and we're also seen on Fire TV, Vimeo, Roku, and we might be getting on to Netflix down the road very soon. So we'll be right back with Dr. Patricia to the stage. Okay, we are back with Dr. Tricia Kapavik. Is that the correct pronunciation?
Kapavik, that's correct. Kapavik.
Awesome. He's Dr. of Chiropractic.
Also known as Dr. K, a lot of people, just to make it easy.
Awesome. Dr. K, super. Who is joining us from Houston, Texas, originally from Corpus Christi, Texas. Dr. K, I was going to say Dr. Tricia, Dr. K. She studied food science and nutrition at Texas A&M University, studied at Texas Chiropractic College, where she received her Doctor of Chiropractic. Today, she's a dynamic teacher, speaker, including a life and wellness coach, and her background is expansive in many, many ways in the wellness arena. And she is also known as the Mind-Body Detox Doc. And one of her favorite quotes is, "Life is too short to wake up in the morning with regrets. So love the people who treat you right, forget the ones who don't, and believe that everything happens for a reason. If you get a chance, take it. If it changes your life, let it. Nobody said it would be easy. They just said it would be worth it. And that is so true. Welcome to the show, Dr. K, to season 4 of Holistic Mental Fitness Series.
Yes, thank you, thank you. Appreciate that.
It's great to see you again. It's been a little while. We chatted a little bit before we went on live here, but before we start getting into some of these questions here that I have for you, I want the viewers to hear your side of what's been going on and what you've been doing. Share a little bit about who Dr. K really is outside of your business.
Well, outside of my business, I am a mom to an 11-year-old boy, and he is my world. I just thoroughly enjoy taking him to all of his activities. That would be my biggest thing. And then I also have been recently a foster mom to baby little dogs that are without their home. So that's been a recent thing too. In the past few months, we had some dogs that got out, and ever since then, it kind of opened my eyes to how many poor animals there are on the streets that don't have a home. So yeah, that's my two big things these days.
Awesome. That is so true. So many animals are out there on the streets, and it's really a shame. And they need loving just as we do. So what actually was what initially drew you to the medical field? And you started out in food science and nutrition, which is the start, but then you transitioned over to doctor of chiropractic. What precipitated that for you to travel that path?
Well, I started when I was very young. I decided I wanted to be a doctor when I grew up, and what it was, I don't know. I had a Dr. Schultz. He was my primary care doctor from a child, and he was always just a great. It seems like he just always cared for us and took care of us. And fast forward, went to A&M, and when I was studying, I started biochemistry and took a nutrition class and just fell in love. So started studying nutrition, and then found out the hard way dietetics was not what I wanted to do. I loved the nutrition though. So I fast forward, started into the natural products industry, and went back to school because I ultimately still had that dream to become a doctor. And at the same time, I wanted to do it in a natural way. And I learned that chiropractic, as a chiropractor, I could diagnose and treat with nutrition. I could really help people without putting them on prescription medications, which I was not always a big fan of. For some reason, it was just there. And yeah. So that was my journey. And then I studied nutrition, and along the way I studied hypnosis, NLP, all kinds of things. So that's when I really started learning about the mind, how the mind works, and really putting those things together, because I think the mind and the body, like you mentioned, the mind and the gut, the mind and the body in general, they go hand in hand. And if our mind's not right, even if we're taking the best nutrition, it may not work, right? And vice versa. If our mind's not in the right place, we could be doing everything perfectly, and it'll affect our results as well. So
absolutely. It's funny that because when I left high school, I actually went to physician's assistants. I was in that school, and then I decided to go to pre-med. Life changed. I was in a band for a bunch of years, and then I ended up being a software engineer for 27 years. And I left corporate America in 2016, not being satisfied, wanting to make a difference. And now I'm a certified holistic wellness coach. And it's kind of funny how things have circled around to come back to health and wellness, because
yeah.
You talk about starting out with food, the nutrition, food, because that's where it all starts. What are we putting into this body temple that we have here, and how is that going to sustain us? And it is so important in being educated the proper way, especially with what's going on today in our food industry and with the pharmaceutical industry as well.
Absolutely.
And what's interesting is that there are so many people that, and you talked about the profession of chiropractic, and chiropractic is an alternative medical practice and being outside of traditional Western medicine, because their teaching and training is pharmaceuticals, and you have gone out and looked at supplementation and look at alternative options. And how have you, through this long history of helping people, who are looking at natural ways to improve their health, what have been some of your experiences with your journey over the last years that you've been a chiropractic doctor, as well as a life coach, as well as a wellness coach from this, and share some of those experiences and what you've learned and what some of your patients have learned as well.
Right. Well, I've learned that, we are all running on programs, and all of us all the time. And those programs were instilled in us from a very early age for the most part. And they're constantly running around us at the same time, commercials on TV, the news, everything is programming us in some way. And so what I've learned, along my journey is it's not just about health. It's, like you mentioned, your show, it's about business, it's about finances, emotional relationships, everything. And we have to really get to the source of those programs and really understand what's driving us and what's running our decisions and the choices that we make. And so, of course, like I said, we all have our own challenges all the time, and I have plenty of my own. And what I've seen with most of my patients is it is around the realm of health. And a lot of people, I always thought it was interesting. There's some people that tend to eat well on a consistent basis, and there's others that eat really not well on a consistent basis. And what is the difference? What is the driving force behind that? And it really comes down to programs, their beliefs about food. Some they don't either know that it's unhealthy, or they don't see that it's unhealthy. Or there are some people that have a driving belief that, I only feed myself really well because I really care about my body and my life and my health, right? So putting all those things together. And as far as my patients, I have one of my first stories very early on in my practice was a lady that had been through the medical system and had been on, she had fibromyalgia, severe pain in her body. And she thought she was coming in for a simple massage. And in fact, she came in and she got my coaching. And what was amazing is that she was never given, after 20 years, she was never given this option that it was possible to be out of pain, and it was possible to be off all of those medications. And so I gave her that possibility just to consider, not that it was, that, and I didn't even guarantee anything. I just gave her that possibility of hope that, what if I could be out of pain? What if I could be off some of these medications and life could be different? And so that was the beginning of the journey for her. And she ended up going through my detox process, and it really completely changed her life. She got off all of the medications. And this was 20 years of being to all kinds of specialists, out of pain, went back to school in her mid 40s to become a nurse.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's really neat to see her just glowing now after all these years. And I saw her, actually, I saw her pop up on Facebook probably about 6 or 8 months ago, because she moved away. She's not near me now, but it truly is transformational. And it did begin with the mind, because if I hadn't given her that possibility for her mind to even consider, and a lot of us are living in a life that we don't realize what's possible for our life and our health. And sometimes it takes somebody on the outside of us, to help us see what's possible, to help us see that possibility. So I really believe they go hand in hand entirely. And so yeah.
Yeah, no, I so resonate with what you're saying. And when it comes to programs, we've been raised to go to school, get an education, and go out and be a robot for people and not be able to think for ourselves.
Mhm.
And more and more people are starting to wake up to a reality of, what I'm doing isn't working. And thank God that many of them are opening up their minds to getting other information. That's the purpose of this whole
Mhm.
series, is to really get education out there, planting the seeds. You talk about hope. That was my thing 4 years ago. I was desperately looking for hope because my doctor wanted to put me on a sixth medication and just keep adding medications because I'm having problems from the other medications. And I'm like, there's got to be another way. And now I'm med free. I'm not on any medication. So
That's amazing.
there is that path if somebody so chooses. You just need to be well informed. And I just, I don't take away from medications. They have their time and place.
Absolutely.
But it's not the end all be all to. My doctor told me you have to manage your type 2 diabetes with medication. That's just the way it is. Well, that's what they're taught. So, but I think that in today's Western medicine, the theory is the patient comes in, you talk about what's going on, the doctor goes to the green book. Okay, let's get you onto this medication. But your approach is looking at uncovering the underlying causes of the symptoms. What is making this happen? And you're basically getting to the root cause, which is something that I learned over the last 4 years. And what I'm doing is we need to get to the root cause of why is this happening, and why is it so important today, especially today. Even it was so important years ago, but more so today, especially with the foods that are out there and the pharmaceuticals that are destroying our bodies. And why do you think that that's not well, we know why it's not the standard practice in Western medicine, but why do you think it's an underlying factor in the alternative options or integrative? I'll put that word integrative out there because it looks at both sides. And how do you approach that underlying factor of getting to the root cause?
There's a number of ways. Obviously, start with asking the person. A lot of times, of course, there's all kinds of tests that we do and that I do that can help us a lot as well. A lot of times, though, I'll have people come in and they will have beautiful blood work, and their doctors are telling them that they're fine. There's nothing wrong. You're fine. You're healthy. It's all in your head. So then, of course, they start to believe it's all in their head. Well, of course, there's a mental component. Don't get me wrong. I will actually address that as well. However, a lot of times I go based on how the patient's feeling, their symptoms. Like, how do you feel? Like, let's get to the root of that. Because usually when you start looking sometimes at the blood work, and you're not seeing anything wrong, but they're not feeling right, sometimes the blood work is something that is more serious, is concerning, is involved. It's not something minor. And the patients know, if you really listen to your gut and you listen to your body and you see how you're really feeling, most people know that something is off. And for a doctor to deny them that, that's always something to consider too. And that's where I have to evaluate, is it something that we need to do some more unique tests for? Because a lot of the basic blood work, again, is looking for major conditions versus minor things that, nutritional deficiencies, that we could have somebody that's just deficient in a few supplements, a few nutrients. It's not showing up on major blood work, but these nutrients are so responsible for certain functions in their body. It could be making them feel that black cloud feeling of just, despair, or the anxiety issues, or, they're just not metabolizing their food right. So they're holding on to weight when they're doing everything that they could be doing right. So there's a lot of different ways. And then on the mindset side, that really is, it's more of a conversation. It really is. Because also I've seen people, as much as people are conditioned to believe that they eat a certain way because they're a certain culture, people also are conditioned to believe that they have certain health conditions because it runs in my family, and it's part of, sorry. My little girl here. It's part of their family, and it's part of what they are. They grew up to believe, oh, well, this condition runs in my family, therefore I might get it. And subconsciously they have this lurking belief deep down that, I might get this. And so that fear is there. And the mind is very, very powerful. We can create disease as much as we can heal disease. The placebo effect is just as real as the nocebo effect, right? So it goes both ways.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And we talk about how I've spoken about, and I know that you do too, is how your gut talks to your mind. I mean, they communicate. The heart, the brain, the heart, and the gut. They all talk to each other. They communicate with what's going on. And it's so important. And this is a new science, as I said, the microbiome, the gut brain heart axis, a
That's
science
right.
that's disrupting the health and wellness industry because of where we are with technology. We're able to, or they're able to discover these new phenomena of this communication between these different systems that we have in this body temple, this beautiful body temple that is so unique and put together beautifully. And we need to understand how we need to feed it to live, in optimum health. And for the past 5 years, for me personally, and I talked about medications in the pharmaceutical industry. As I said, it has its place. I'm the first one to raise my hand. Give me morphine if I'm passing a kidney stone, but I didn't need metformin every single day of my life for the rest of my life, as my doctor was telling me.
Hmm.
So I'm noticing more and more practitioners are actually jumping ship and coming over to the integrative side and being able to look at both sides because they're out there, they want to help their patients, and they're finally realizing this isn't working. This is not working. Um, and how have you found that in your industry, being a doctor of chiropractic? I'm sure that you're meeting more and more practitioners from the Western medicine side who are kind of transitioning over to looking at different alternative healing options. Can you share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Well, it is interesting. Years ago when I first, yeah, when I studied hypnosis, it was in the early 2000s, and I remember being told not to use that word because
Hmm.
it's considered woo-woo and it's scary. And now there's all the neuroscience that correlates directly to how hypnosis works and what exactly it is.
Yep.
It's not woo-woo at all. It's truly neuroscience. And so I think that what's happening is a lot of these in Chinese medicine as well, they're the meridians. They've actually been able to see the meridians. And so they're not just these imaginary energy channels in our body. They've actually done science to see them now. So I think that a lot of it is that we are able to take some of these things that they considered alternative, and we're showing the proof. They're seeing the science behind it. That's part of it. Now I think the other side of that coin is I think the practitioners that I've met, I'll tell you that I've seen, I say they've come to the other side, right? Or they've seen the
Right.
lights. Most of them have had some very major traumatic health issues of their own personally. And I have, personal friends that are medical doctors, and they would have never considered chiropractic and all this hocus pocus, years ago, is they wouldn't even considered looking into it, where now, after their health challenges, they couldn't get the answers with Western medicine. They weren't getting
Mhm.
the results, and it led them down this path of looking at other alternatives truly, and finding the answers in the alternative world, and they were able to heal themselves with the alternative medicine. And I hate that word alternative, because I truly believe it's just as integral and important as any Western medicine, if not,
Yeah.
in my opinion, more important. I think it should be the first choice and the first thing that people look
Yes.
at.
Yes.
However, it's unfortunate that we are conditioned where we live in a society, and that we're very pharmaceutical programmed. I mean, to put it lightly, that's what we are programmed to do first. And when you have a headache, you don't think, oh, what is going on with my head? Why do I have this pain in my head? We think, well, let me go pop a Tylenol. And
Right.
the reality is, we don't have a deficiency of Tylenol or Advil or whatever
Right.
it is people are popping for their headaches. That's not the issue. That's not, now, using it as a band-aid is one thing, but I really, or I should say, and people really should see it as a band-aid. It shouldn't be the answer every
Mhm.
time. If you continue to get headaches, you should start looking into that further, versus thinking, oh, well, the Tylenol clears it up every day. Well, that's not
Yes.
what's lacking. That's just
Mhm.
a band-aid. So But I really think the major health issues that these docs have overcome personally has truly what's led them into the other side, into this natural side, and to be open to it, which I think is fabulous. It's an
Yes.
unfortunate way. The
Yes.
other thing I think is that the patients are coming to them. You have patients more and more. The internet, there's so much information on the internet. So if, imagine a medical doctor, patients are coming in saying, look, I'm taking these supplements because they make me feel better. I feel better with taking these things. These MDs can't deny that. They have to start looking into it. They can't. So I think that's a big part of it as well. It is interesting to see, and I love it. I can't say I wish we could introduce it to all of these docs, because I think it would make such a difference with patients in so many different ways. So
No, you're absolutely correct. I mean, there's testimony after testimony after testimony of people getting off of medication by going holistic, alternative, Ayurvedic, ancient Chinese medicine. Plants were put here for a reason. And a thought came through my head when you talk about these doctors having their own experiences, and I'm just thinking, when you've got back pain and you've got excruciating back pain, you go to, why go and get Percocet or some kind of opioid that will take the pain away, get to the root of it. And when you go to a chiropractor, they can assess the situation, and it could be your spine being misaligned, pinching a nerve, getting along one of the nerves. And that's not going to be resolved by taking a pharmaceutical. It's going to be resolved by making the alignment of your spine, correcting that misalignment, if you will. I've had that before. So that popped up in my head about, fixing back problems. But that goes throughout the entire body. We're kind of getting towards the end here. I do have a couple more questions for you. And I'm not going to take a commercial break, because usually I take another commercial break here. I'm not going to do it because I'm having so much fun.
okay, good.
And so earlier I mentioned that you are today you're really being more known and branded as the Mind-Body Detox Doc. And we talked about I mentioned about how the gut talks to the brain, to the heart, so forth and so on. Share a little bit with our viewers what you are doing to educate people about this detox, you being the Mind-Body Detox Doc, because this is so important, especially in the last, I'm going to say the last 10 years, but more so now. And I'm going to be bold and start to, this is the first time I'm saying this, besides the chemicals and that are food preservatives in our foods, and the pharmaceuticals that have their cause and no cause. But now there is talk about mRNA being injected into our meats and into our fruits and vegetables. Talk about this detox protocol and what you're looking at, as you've been building this program and moving it forward with your expertise.
Well, I've been doing detoxes with my patients for years, and actually, that first patient that came to me when I first started my practice, it was just so transformational for her. And yes, you're right. So many people are so full of toxins, and I tell people most of their symptoms are due to one of two things. They're either toxic, they've got too many toxins in their body, and their liver, it's just their body can't deal with it anymore, so they're experiencing symptoms of that, or they're deficient and their body is not getting the nutrients it needs to do all of the functions it needs to do, and that further hinders the detox process, right? So I think detoxification is just the beginning. It's the start, and getting the body working the way it's supposed to again, getting people feeling the way they're supposed to. Most people don't even realize that they're feeling like down here when they should be feeling like this on a regular basis. So getting their body working right the way it's supposed to. And then the mental detox, the mind detox portion, is really working at that level of understanding that we have to reprogram our beliefs. We have to take out those thoughts that are not serving us. They might be toxic thoughts, or they might just not be serving us. And we might need some, to kind of replenish with some nutrient thoughts, if that makes any sense. But really getting our brain and our head in the right space, and using neuroscience to recondition ourselves and reprogram ourselves to not only get the results physically, but to maintain the results. A lot of people get so stuck on these I call them the yo-yo diet hamster wheel. They're on different diets, different programs every few weeks, every few months. And the reality is, if we could recondition our brain and our mind and our beliefs, our programs, to be the person that just tends to make healthy choices on a regular basis, that tends to love ourselves enough to really do what's best for our body and our health, then it's an easy thing. It's not a diet. It's not this deprivation. It's not a starvation. It's just, this is just what I do to feel good and keep myself healthy. And, so that's why I combine those two things. And I think it's been very powerful because I get results that tend to last and tend to, and it makes it easy. And I always hate people, the word diet, because I don't want anybody to ever think this is another diet, or it's another like tea where you're going to be, pooping your brains out, right? It's really completely transforming the body and the mind. So.
Yeah, no, that's so important. And you talked about, we mentioned about the chemicals that are the food preservatives in our foods, because there's really no nutrition in those types of foods. They're depleted. And that's one of the biggest problems today that we have, not only in our processed foods, but also the foods that are coming from our farmlands, because the earth has its own microbiome, which has been depleted by, unfortunately, Monsanto, and its Roundup, which is sprayed on all, so many of the food products out there today, and GMOs that are out there. But, you talked about nutrition. And we're not getting the nutrition that we used to get back in the 1800s, the 1700s, because we didn't have these chemicals around. And this is where supplementation, I was not a big supplementation person many, many years ago. It's like, we got food, we're eating healthy, we should be fine. Why should I spend money on supplementation? But the reality is, supplementation actually gives you more nutrition than our food today. So you need to supplement your daily food regimen with the proper supplementation, especially when you talked about earlier deficiencies. When you have deficiencies in minerals and vitamins and nutrients and things like that. So I love that. And I think that, we all should be detoxing on a regular basis until one day, which I don't think will ever come in my lifetime, that we will have really nutritious food, unless you grow it yourself. But, we talked a little bit about this earlier, about, more and more doctors are leaving Western medicine and kind of transitioning over to, a new arena, a new path for them, looking at both sides. Where do you see the health and wellness industry over the next, say, 5 to 10 years?
That's a really good question. When I started in the nutritional supplement industry, it was when I graduated from A&M in '97, and back then it was we literally were starting putting echinacea. I was talking to Tropicana at the time about putting echinacea in their orange juice, and echinacea is obviously an immune boosting herb, and we've done a ton of research on it now. And now it seems back then it was so new. And today you go and there's a ton of different juices with all these different herbs in them already. And, we've come so far already. And I do think that it's only going to be stronger. The more research we do, the more people that have to go that route, I say, that are kind of forced into that route. I would hope that people weren't forced into it, but I'll tell you, as on the alternative healthcare side, the majority of patients, either they're very open to natural things already, or they've tried everything already and they've been to all these doctors and they haven't had the answers. And so that's why when they are, I say they're forced into that route. I'm it's a growing industry. I know that for a fact. The supplements industry in general. I would love to see it more integrative. Truly integrative, where doctors are working more together. And We'll see. We'll see. It's a process, and there's a lot of politics. You mentioned Monsanto. There's a lot of politics on the pharmaceutical
Yeah,
side. I tell people they kind of run the world in a way.
that's right.
They call the shots, and so a lot of these drugs are made, and the conditions, that's just the gold standard to treat things. So until we get money out of it, in my opinion, it's going to be a little bit of an uphill challenge. But
Mm.
we've made tremendous progress in the world of natural health, which is fantastic. I think so.
No, I totally agree. I mean, I've got my own story, as many others do. You mentioned, I think it was the word forced to. But the way I'm looking at it today, I think the way I look at it is there are more and more people who are getting sick and tired of being
Of
sick and
being sick.
tired of not getting healthier, that they are anxious and
Hmm.
willing to be open to looking at other options that are
Right.
out there. Because, as you say, you talk about, uh, um, you know, mainstream media and social media. It's all manipulated and controlled
Unfortunately.
by the FDA and the elites and things like that, and they push out what they want people to see. Hey, I've been blocked out of Facebook for sharing holistic information and just educating people about other options that are available out there, and they control it. So this is a huge problem, because you're not going to see you very rarely see supplementation on TV advertisements. I've started to see one or two, but that's about
Right.
it.
It's
It's all about, here. You take this drug, and then, oh, by the side here, you'll
Yeah.
experience stomach ache and headache and this and that, and then, oh, and by the way, you could possibly die. Okay.
Well, I think the other side of that is we're in such a fast-paced world. You think
Yes.
about social media and
Yeah.
everything is so high speed. So I think that is another, you know, it's a little bit of a challenge. However, when people get to the end of their rope, they're willing to do whatever it takes. But a
Right.
lot of people are still conditioned for that fast effect. So I have a headache, take a
Yeah.
pill,
Yeah.
the headache goes away in 30 minutes to an hour. And that is their answer. And they prefer that over, oh, I might have to change my life. I might have to make changes in my diet and my lifestyle. And, oh, taking those vitamins, maybe my headache doesn't go away in the next 30 minutes to an hour. Maybe it takes a little longer because it's fixing the problem. So we also have some educating to do with people.
Correct.
And, I think a lot of people as well, they like the idea that they can go through the drive-through and they can get their crap and eat their junk and live their life.
Yeah.
And the consequences, oh, I just have to pop these pills. Now, granted, we
Right.
know the long-term results, the number one cause of death in our country is heart disease, and diabetes is not far down the list. And most of those diseases tend to be what I call the hand to mouth diseases. So
Right.
even though they're getting those quick fixes, and if they're not educated, and that's the only answer they're getting from their medical doctor, then it's an interesting world we're in right now, right? It's like
It is.
we're on the cusp, as is what I see.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. No. That's very, very true. Education is huge, when it comes to what we're doing out there, and that's, again, the
Mhm.
purpose of this series is to educate people and just kind of plant that seed in their head to say, maybe I should look elsewhere, or maybe I should call Dr. K,
Yeah.
and get some more information. So, my last question for you is, if there was one piece of advice that you could give anybody that's watching who is looking for that glimmer of hope from a personal or a professional perspective, what would that be?
The one thing that I would say that is quite possibly the most powerful thing to do is to get clear about what you ultimately want.
Mm.
What we tend to do is we get so focused on what we don't want and what's wrong, and our mind gravitates toward that. And then we began seeing, the reticular activating system is nothing more than your brain seeing exactly what you're expecting. And so when you start expecting and you start focusing on, I am a healthy person, I am a wealthy person, I am, whatever that looks like, for your life, your vision for your life, get really clear about what it is that you want and start focusing on that. And I say want, I always think want is a little bit of a needy term. However, I think that desire, just what those ultimate visions you have for yourself and focusing on that. And so when we get stuck in of like, oh, something's happening or something I'm dealing with, whatever it is, so right now, I'm having this gut issue or the stomach issue. All right, what do I want? I want to feel good. I want my stomach to feel great. I want to be able to eat food and digest it easily, whatever that looks like, but create that and focus on that. And what's amazing is that your mind is very powerful, and you'll start finding and you'll start seeing things. So there'll be things opened up that were not open before, and not because of anything woo woo. It's just truly neuroscience. Your reticular activating system is now open to seeing what you're looking for, and you're looking for that. So that's probably the most powerful thing in the realm of something that you can do. The second thing is drink your water. I say that because so many people are just dehydrated, and there's a lot of symptoms, headaches, pains, aches that could be relieved with some water. and it's usually low cost. You can grab it typically out of your water fountain. I know there's certain places in the world that don't have that luxury, and where we are, we're very fortunate. So drink it. Get your water.
I do my happy juice every day, all day long, with the water and my nutrients in here. So
awesome,
which is good. So Dr. K, I was going to say Dr. Tricia, Dr. K.
Yeah,
I can't thank you enough for taking the time today to be my special guest, and you brought so much value, which is why I didn't go into that middle commercial. And you are an icon that is definitely changing the world, and you're going to continue to change it with amazing aspects, sharing holistic health and wellness, talking about the mind and the gut, and helping people detox. So with that, I'm so very, very appreciative that you've taken this time to do this interview. And for everybody out there, remember, I believe that we all should be living in abundance and optimum wellness, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and financially today. And lastly, mental fitness is the new physical health. I'll see you on the inside next week. Ciao.
Yes, thank you.